Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Talking TV with my mum, the weekly Geek-Dom geek/genre TV review and discussion podcast. If you're here for the very first time, then welcome. You're very welcome here. And if you're returning, then welcome back. If you are listening to us on YouTube, through YouTube, I should say, then don't forget to hit that thumbs up and leave us a like. Don't forget to leave your comments down below. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. The more numbers we get, the bigger the channel grows, the more likely we'll be recommended, and stuff to do with algorithms and all those kind of complicated things, but it will bring us to a bigger audience. And if you're listening on an audio platform, then that's fantastic. We've recently ventured into that world of MP3 podcasts, and we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Acast, and numerous other places. So the chances are, wherever you find your podcast, you're probably going to find us now. If there are ways to leave us reviews, feedback, comments on those platforms, then please do. But if not, please come over to the YouTube channel. The description link, the link will be in the description of the podcast. So please do that. We'd love to hear from you. Also, on the YouTube channel, there is a whole bunch of stuff in the description box, including the timestamps for today's shows, which are The Expanse, The Return of The Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow. So you'll be able to jump around if necessary, but hopefully you'll listen to the whole thing from start to finish. There is also a link there for my Twitter, a link to my merch shop. So if you want a Geek-Dom or a Geek-Mom hoodie or a t-shirt or something like that, then you can have a look on there. Even a mug for your desk or a sticker, something like that. There's all sorts of things. There are also 2 donation links. If you can help out in any way, either become a patron on Patreon, and in the future, I'm going to be adding some stuff soon, so you'll be able to maybe get access to outtakes, bloopers, things from the podcast that don't make the final cut, and potentially specials maybe at some point down the line, that kind of thing. So if you want to get in on the ground floor now, then go ahead and join Patreon. There are various tiers, and there are other rewards as well. Or if you just want to do a one-time thing or a small thing, then go to Ko-fi. Either way, these things help the growth of the channel, the growth of the podcast, allow us to keep doing this kind of thing, and hopefully get better equipment and make it more high profile and polished in the future. Equally, you're not under any obligation to do that, though. There's also a link for Green Man Gaming in the YouTube description. So if you want to buy yourself any digital games, use that link and check them out. And anything you buy, I will receive a commission from the company. It doesn't get charged to you, so you're not going to be paying above the odds, having extra money added on to your purchase. So it's a way of like helping me just by helping yourself, I suppose. That's really it for the housekeeping for today. So without further ado, it wouldn't be Talking TV with my mum without my mum. So hello there, mum.
Hello, Dom. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Did you have a good birthday?
I had a beautiful birthday, thank you. Yes, it was great.
Good.
I had a whole week off and then a day of my birthday, so I had quite a relaxing week leading up to my birthday. So, hectic, but relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been done and dusted now for another year.
Well, I have a couple of comments in relation to your birthday. I just wanted to go through. I'll just read them through. You might have seen these yourself already, to be fair, but we got, there's a comment from Zoe saying, "Happy birthday, Geek Mom. I hope you have a wonderful day," with lots and lots of hearts.
Hey, Zoe.
Azalea, she said, "Hey, I wanted to say happy birthday to Geek Mom. Hope you guys are having a great day."
Oh, bless her. Thank you.
And Mellow Lou said, "Happy birthday, Geek Mom. Also, thank you for the shout out there," because obviously we mentioned him on the previous podcast.
Yes,
And he said,
indeed.
"Representing the 1%ers of the Geek-Dom in the USA, haha, or the US. I know nothing of The Expanse, but I love the coverage you two do of it. I wanted to know more, so I have to catch up on it."
Oh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's very intriguing, this one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did say in the comment to him, but you might not have seen it, Lou. If you haven't, then I'll say it again. Basically, it's really good, gritty sci-fi. And if you like things like, if you ever watched like the remake of Battlestar Galactica they did, or any of those kind of like high-level things like Blade Runner and stuff, I suppose, where it's sci-fi, but it's slightly more, it's gritty. It's like, it's not fantastical in the way that something like I don't know, Star Trek or Farscape or something. It's not that kind of sci-fi. It's more dark and gritty and stuff, isn't it?
It's great.
So yeah, it's definitely worth a look. I would recommend it highly. And if we're helping you to get familiarized with it, then that's fantastic.
Indeed.
So yeah, there you go. So that's the comments tied in with me talking about your birthday.
Job done.
Very efficient. So yeah, I'm trying to be upbeat and optimistic today because I know we had our friends across the pond had their big bowl of soup over the weekend. Their big Super Bowl. Yeah, which we're going to talk about something to do with the Super Bowl in a moment. But yeah, they had that. But we also had for me anyway, it was a big actual football as well, not American football, proper soccer game the other night where my home team, Oxford, they did their best.
They did damn well.
They did very good. It was a good game. It was very tense. It was very
a lot of people
nail biting.
In my place, because I work in the bookies, is a lot of them wanted Oxford to win it.
Yeah.
They said the way they came back from nowhere was unbelievable.
I mean, fair play to Newcastle United. You know, they got the win in the end, but they were pushed for it.
They had to fight for it.
Yeah. I mean, going 2-0 up in the first half and then it becoming a draw by the end of the second half and then having to be pushed into extra time and only getting their winning goal in the last couple of minutes of extra time to a club that are 2 divisions below them.
You should have listened out the window, Dom. You probably could hear it from your house.
Well, I could hear it. Yeah, I could hear all the noise and stuff. Yeah. My street was littered with cars because of all the people just parking
at the
road. But yeah, so
that's your highlight, like your football, the English football highlight.
Yeah,
the American football.
So maybe not quite the glitz and glamour and stuff of the Super Bowl, but you know, it was a big deal here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, the ball talk. Now we're talking about balls. Yeah, talking balls with my mum.
We have to start a new one, talking football. I know all about Premier League. So
we're just talking balls. We talk about balls in general. Just
ping
football
pong
and ping pong. Michael Ball.
Yeah.
You know,
Michael Ball. Tommy Ball.
Bobby
Zoe
Ball.
We know a lot about balls.
Yeah, lots of ball talk.
Yeah, so all a load of balls. Oh
dear, all a load of balls. Right. Anyway, that's enough. That's enough talking balls. Join us next week where we talk more balls. So we're going to get on to a little bit of news that I have. So there's not a lot. So the first thing is to do with Altered Carbon. You remember Altered Carbon, the really odd sci-fi show? So this is Lou, if you're listening to this again, Altered Carbon, I don't know if you've watched it, but it's another high-level sci-fi. It's very complicated. You really have to watch it to know what's going on because it's all to do with people being put into other bodies called sleeves. So their consciousness is kind of uploaded into a new body so they can live for like thousands of years. But it's the same person. They just move from body to body to body.
It's like having an upgrade, but you're actually moving your whole,
Yeah. And again, it's based on a book series in the same way the Expanse is.
Anyway, when's it back?
It's back on the 27th of February.
Right. It's in my diary.
It's going to be good because this time we're going to get Anthony Mackie is stepping into the role of the lead character. So keep him with the whole swapping bodies thing. It's not the guy that was in last season. It's going to be same character, but in a different body. So Anthony Mackie, the Marvel fans out there know him as Falcon from the Marvel movies, is going to be stepping into the role. And it's going to be dealing more with the little bits and pieces that we had at the end of the last one to do with his, was it like centuries old girlfriend or whatever that he's been looking for. So there's going to be more to do with that. And the guy, the Asian guy, I think he might be a Japanese actor or something that was the original Takeshi Kovac that we saw a few times in the first season. He's going to be in it again. And also I found out that Poe is returning.
Yay.
Which I was really pleased about because Poe was he was like a computer program, wasn't he? In the in the hotel.
Yep.
And he was based around Edgar Allan Poe, but he was this like intelligent artificial host hotel owner. But he got like I thought he got like erased or deleted or something towards the end of the first season. So how he's going to be revived and brought back, I don't know. But it's been confirmed that he's going to be a part of this series. So it's like, oh, that's cool because he was a really fun, quirky character.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely check out that when it comes on. If you haven't caught the first series, then I think you can probably find it on Netflix. But the second season starts on the 27th of February. So that's pretty cool.
Okay.
And going back to our talking balls, so during the Super Bowl, as happens every year, they have trailers and adverts and this, that, and the other. And in relation to stuff we talk about, Marvel had a 30-second trailer spot. Was really cool because it showed a whole bunch of footage from some of the new Marvel shows that are going to be coming out on the Disney Plus service. So we got a bit more of a look at the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. And we also got a look at WandaVision and a very, very brief look at the Loki series. Now, the one that I'm most interested in right now is WandaVision, and they've confirmed that it's coming earlier than expected. It's going to be December this year that WandaVision is going to come out. So that's going to be very, very interesting. The way it looked, because I've talked to you about this before and said that it's going to be like a sitcom, like the old 50s style sitcom, but there's going to be a sinister weirdness going on in the background of like, not everything is not as it seems. This is not necessarily reality. And that got further enforced in this little trailer because it shows almost like different styles of sitcom. Like there was a black and white thing. And then there was also something that looked a bit like, it was almost like the Brady Bunch or something like that, or colorful 60s sort of psychedelia. There was another era as well. I can't remember exactly what now, but it's like, well, it's going through different eras that are also represented by different eras of sitcoms over the years. So it all looks a bit strange. And there's all stuff like, just like weird little quirky moments. And you're like, this looks really bonkers and really intriguing. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's coming in December. And then the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show is actually going to be on in August. So you've got 2 Marvel TV shows are actually going to be on this year. So we're going to have the end of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the summer. And then that's going to end. And then we're going to get introduced to this new world of Marvel TV shows. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
There's also, what was the other thing? Oh, yes. The Mandalorian season 2.
Yay.
October.
Oh.
It's been announced. It's coming out in October.
Oh, brilliant. I haven't got to wait that long at all.
No.
Well, the actual proper one, not the cartoon one.
No, the next season of The Mandalorian is October this year.
Yay.
So that's really, really cool. Yeah, so that's the main bits of news that I have, was just to do with those shows.
Cool.
And the fact that we got to see some cool footage. If you haven't seen, most people will have seen it, but if you haven't, it's on YouTube. Watch the 30-second Marvel highlight reel thing of these programs. It all looks very cool, very interesting, and I'm really excited about it.
Okay, I will check them out.
That's all I've got.
Okay.
That's all I have for you this week. So that's the comments. That's the news. So hopefully that was informative. Too long, don't read. You don't have to now because I did it for you. So let's get cracking and move on to our first review. So that's going to be episode 3 of The Expanse, which was called Subduction. Interesting title. So you can kick us off with this one.
Well, a lot happened on this one. So at the end of last one, Muntry, I think his name is, the guy
Murtry.
I put Mantry, Murtry. I can't remember what his name was. I just put Owen. Owen offered Doctor Who. No.
Torchwood.
Of Torchwood, sorry. Obviously, the guy at the end of last episode, he shot that belter, didn't he?
Yes.
So now he's enemy number 1. So it's like, oh, they are not happy with them.
They were out for blood, weren't they?
Well, yeah, basically, they are not happy with him at all. We had Holden and Alex were, obviously they got out that monument thing, the ruins or whatever it was, after last week's.
Yeah.
Miller getting them in to move a twig. And they were, when they got back up on land, that there was lightning, wasn't there?
Yeah, because we got that at the end of the last one, didn't we? All the lightning storms.
And they said, well, it looks like it's going to hit the camp. So the girl, Naomi, went back to try and warn them and warn Amos as well.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the lightning hit the camp and knocked all the power out.
Yeah.
And affected the belters. But that
Murtry
didn't want to help them, did he? He didn't want to help them out at all. He's like, well, it's infected us. It's their deal. They get on with it.
Well, yeah, because
our stuff that got affected.
Because he's working under the assumption that it was the Belters that shot down their ship. Because it was the Belters generator that went out, he's like, screw them. Why should we help them? You know, because in his mind, they're the reason that half of his crew got killed.
Well, yeah. And obviously then Holden was also annoyed because he said Miller hadn't warned it was going to happen. And it was going to hit the settlement.
Yeah.
So it's like, we got to try and turn it off again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's turned it on, but we got to try and turn it off again.
Mm-hmm.
We had that bit. The scientist woman that came to the ruins with them. She came in with the Mantry guy, didn't she? Mantry.
Yeah. She's part of that expedition. Yeah.
So she was talking. Was it a satellite ship, a ship or something that was going around the planet? That guy she was talking to.
I think because they obviously came off their ship that came down to the planet was a drop ship, so they came off a bigger ship in the first place. So they were sent down as
circling it, aren't they? Like a space station type thing.
And as a result, it means they can monitor the planet from orbit.
That side. So she was talking to him about the lightning and also about the shooting.
Yeah.
And said, well, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to go back to the ruins to see what's going on. That was what she decided to do.
And she contacted Holden, didn't she?
Yeah.
And she said about it, and he was like, yeah, I know, I'm already there. And she's like, how are you already there? And he was like, doesn't matter, sort of. Like, don't want to tell you that we're the reason that this has happened.
Yeah, they could explain it, could they? How they're going to sort of tell her what happened. Yeah. So she'd gone to talk to him, and the lightning stopped. But then there was some sort of like quake on the ground.
Yeah, so they were trying to then work out where is the epicenter, where has this come from?
It's like, oh my God, they got this. Whatever's happened with this stupid ruins is now affecting the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they have to find out what's happening. That Murtry. Anyway, right, basically, because they had knocked everything out, Amos was trying to fix their equipment because the power had gone out, and he decided to help himself to Murtry's stuff.
Yeah, because he noticed there was a whole bunch of like power cells or something just sat in a box. So he went over to get it, and then he was the armed guys came out and they're like, you can't take that. And he's like, hey, screw you. I'm taking this because I need it. It's just sat there gathering dust. You're not using it. And he got into a bit of a brawl, and then his girlfriend type girl came out and broke it all up. And she said, let him have it. And they're like, yeah, but Murtry said, and she's like, I'll square it with Murtry. I don't want any more violence. And then she sort of had a go at him. And then he was like, so does this mean we're not screwing now? I'll sanitize it.
Yeah, that was so funny.
And then she looked and she went, no, I'm not saying that. And he's like, oh, great. Okay, I'll see you this evening then. And he just like walked off.
So that Murtry, is it? Murtry warned Amos about, because he said, don't attack my people, because obviously he had to push them out of the way to get the stuff. And he said, well, you're just a killer, so I ain't got no respect for you, so jog on, basically, wasn't it?
And then but that was good, because he said, why do you think this of me? And then he said, because I'm like you. He's like, basically, like, I'm a killer as well. And then he's like, you come for my people, it'll be the last thing you do. Yeah. It was a real sort of tense moment, wasn't it? Because they had a flask, he had a flask of alcohol, and Amos had gripped hold of it, and then they're both with their hands on this flask, and then he sort of pulled it away and did it up and got up and left, and Amos was just sat there. It's don't mess with Amos.
Because he Holden had a message up, save, protect the modules or something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who was the guy that they said sent to get the modules? He had a tattoo on his neck. Was he one of the Belters?
Yeah. Yeah, because they all have these kind of tribal sort of tattoos and things, don't they?
And that Muntry was talking to the Belter doctor about his leg, saying, "Oh, my leg's injured," and he was quizzing her about.
Well, before that, we just have to backtrack a second. It turns out that Murtry has set up some kind of surveillance thing in that camp because the Belters were talking about enacting their revenge, and they were talking to the doctor, and they were saying about the fact that, you know, they were going to strike later on and saying, "Are you in? Are you part of it?" And she's like, kind of complicit in a way, but also like, "Look, I want this all to be over. I don't want there to be any more trouble." And they're like, "Yeah, you remember you're one of us, see ya?" And all this kind of stuff. And she's like, yeah, you know, I'm with you, sort of thing. So he heard all this conversation. So then when he went to get his leg checked,
about it, didn't he?
It was all very tense, and I was thinking, oh my God, is he gonna attack her? What's gonna happen here?
It got a bit close, didn't it?
Yeah, and it was only because Naomi came in.
Interrupted them, didn't she? Because she came in, then she collapsed. That sort of like solved that problem temporarily. Back at the ruins, they had this. Obviously, they had the earthquake thing, but there was this thing. It was like the monument was rotating.
Yeah, because they got the coordinates for the epicenter, so they went out there in the buggy, and then they could see this big dust cloud and things like that, and then it looked like it was like those structures but smaller, and it was in the ground, and it was like sticking out of the ground. It was swirling round, and it was cutting through the ground. It was like creating, I don't know what it was doing. Like, it was almost like creating a canyon, because it was just not burrowing through the earth. It was like cutting through the surface of the planet.
Yeah.
And they said if that carries on at this trajectory, it's going to go straight through the encampment.
Yeah.
And destroy everything.
She wanted to study it, but he said, "No, I'm going to blow it up."
And she said, "That's not a good idea because we don't know what's below the surface. So if you blow it up, whatever's powering it below could cause an even bigger explosion and could end up destroying the whole planet." And he's like,
"Yeah,
we don't have any choice. There's going to be people killed." And then Alex said to him about talking to Miller. And then he was like, okay. So he walked away. And I got the impression that he couldn't communicate with him because he just kind of stood there for a few minutes, didn't he? And then he turned back round and said, "Right, we're going to fire a torpedo."
Like he didn't show him physically. So it's like, no, I'm just going to go with my gut and blow it up. And he did. And it stopped it moving, didn't it? Eventually.
Yeah. So there was a big explosion. There was a big explosion. It eventually stopped moving. And then she looked like really annoyed and sort of, one, she thought it was rash. But secondly, being a scientist and stuff, she had wanted to explore it properly, and she's like, "You just blew it up."
Yeah.
And he's just kind of like, "We did what we had to do," kind of attitude. So it's like,
we can't afford anything else to get damaged at the other end.
Yeah.
So obviously, the final piece to that, we'll leave that because that was near the end.
The other thing quickly to do with Naomi, she's still struggling with the gravity of the planet. She's still trying to hide it. She's still trying to inject herself. And then she went to see the doctor. Like we said, she interrupted Murtry and the doctor. Murtry left because Naomi collapsed because she was having a go at him. And she was like going, "You think you're a big man. You don't know what you're dealing with. And
like,
I'm not going to take any crap from you," and this, that, and the other. And he was there squaring up to each other. And then all of a sudden she started convulsing and she fell on the floor.
They've been saying she's doing too much too fast. She's like trying to adapt too quick.
And then
she's
the doctor
trying to do a normal job, but she's forgetting she's on a different atmosphere and a different thing, isn't she?
Yeah. And then the doctor sort of revived her and gave her some medicine. And she said to her, "I've seen this before." And she said, "I think you need to get off the planet." Because
she's warned her, because it could kill her, didn't she?
Yeah, because she said not everybody seems to be able to adapt. The drugs you're taking clearly aren't, your system isn't taking them in properly.
And plus she keeps overdosing on them. She keeps taking them.
Yeah, because she's pushing herself.
An episode, she's like, "I'll take some more." So probably she's doing herself more harm than good, isn't she? I think that's probably what's not helping, because she's probably like potentially overdosing on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, she definitely. But she won't leave, will she?
No.
It's like, you don't know. Yes. She's a fighter.
We will return to the conclusion of that in a moment.
So we had back at the UN ship, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was Christian after her meeting with the PM on Mars. She was on her ship and she was listening to the TV, and that woman, I've got her name. Where is she now?
Nancy Gow?
Nancy Gow, yeah. Because she's running against her, isn't she now?
Yeah, so not only did she resign her position, she's now decided she's going to run in opposition to be the new Home Secretary.
Yeah. She had a few
to be the new Secretary General. Yeah. Yeah, what did she say?
Did she?
Yes, and she said something about, because she saw her on the news, she was being interviewed, and she said, the reason I resigned my position as Home Secretary is because I feel that Secretary General Avasarala, or whatever her name is inefficient. She's been compromised by the various things that have happened. She's keeping the truth from people, and I feel that I could be a better leader. And she's like, oh, look at her there. It's all blowjobs and smiles for everybody, isn't it? And all that.
I love the way she just comes out with it, doesn't she?
I know.
Because later on, she got updated by Holden what was going on. Mm-hmm. And then she had to chat with that woman, didn't she? She came to see her.
Yeah.
And she was, she said something about Illus. She goes, the new terror. It's like, I got Illus, you got a new terror. It's like,
yeah.
They're going to clash all the time. And then later on, she was talking to her husband about the polls.
Yes.
And she had the Nancy Gow info up, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
And they found out she got her way in there because she got special consideration because she cheated to get where she was. And Christian's going to let everyone know.
Well, yeah, because the biggest issue around this political side of things is that Nancy Gow felt we, as the human race, now have opportunities to go out there and colonize more planets, and we should be doing it. And she's like, no, because we don't know what threats are out there yet. So we need to establish the safety before we start sending our people out there. And so she's trying to make out like the current Secretary General is trying to hold back the progress of humanity. And she's like pro forwarding the human race out there into space.
Yeah.
But really, it's unnecessary, stupid risks, really. So she's like, we need to figure out what the deal is. Where's she come from? Why she got all this clout? How has she got into the position she's in? So she set her aides investigating her. And that's when they found out, she jumped the queue. She got
all the rubbish she found on her. She's like, tell her.
Yeah. So she's basically like I'm going to
want her to have that information.
Going to leak that information to the press to discredit her.
Yeah. That was quite awesome. I love her anyway.
Yeah.
So then we also had on Mars, we had Bobby.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't get hold of her since obviously she saved her brother from that drug thing.
A nephew.
Sorry, a brother, a nephew. She was trying to get hold of him, but she couldn't.
Yeah.
He's obviously in trouble, and she said, all right, I can't get hold of him. I'm going to find his girlfriend. Oh, no, didn't she speak to him on the phone? And he said, go and see her. Yeah,
he sent her a message, didn't he, to say that she had to go to a specific place. Yeah. So then when she went there, the girlfriend was sat on a bench, and it was like, was it a museum or something? Because there was whole school kids doing this like holographic puzzle.
Yeah, they were doing some like activity, weren't they, in the background?
Yeah.
Around her. So she'd gone there, and she found out he was working off a debt. Because
of what she did in the last episode.
Yeah. And then this other guy sat the other side of her. And he said that he needs Bobby to clear the debt if she gets him access to some place to steal something. Yeah, because it turns out he's like, you messed up my operation. It's like, oh, this is the boss of this drug group, this drug gang. And he's like a sort of middle-aged man, bald head, quite sophisticated. And he's like, yeah, we're holding him hostage, basically. And you won't see him again unless you do what I ask you to do. And he's like, it's a very simple thing. You can make this all better. The debt will be paid. He'll be let go, to go home again. All you've got to do, because of your job and the access you have to specific places, you've just got to leave a door open so that we can get some stuff. And she's like, well, I'm not letting you get your hands on weaponry and stuff. And he's like, it's not weaponry. We don't want weaponry. Yeah. He's like, that's not what we're all about. He said, it's other things. And he's like, just do as you're told. And he gave her I think he gave her the particular place that they wanted to be left open, didn't he? Yeah. And he's you leave that to that. So she went off thinking about this. She thought, I'm not going to help him. So she thought, now I'm going to report David missing and go to the police. Yeah. And then she went to the police and they said, right, go see whoever's in charge of it. And it was that guy. Yeah, she was. The guy was like, took all the information. He said, okay, if you go through a detective, we'll see you now. And she sat down and then he comes out and he's like, what seems to be the problem? And you're like, you're kidding me. He's a cop. And he's like, he's a bad road cop. And he's a highly decorated, what did he say? Like 20 plus years on the force, no blemishes on his record. And he's like, you're a trigger happy ex-soldier
whose word do you think they're going to believe if you decide to try and out me?
They put her in the right position, didn't he?
And he's like, I knew that, he basically knew. He's like, you're a good Martian. It was obvious that you were going to.
Yeah, he knew she wasn't going to automatically go, yes, I'll do it. She's like, he knew she was probably going to do that. I thought, well, find out it's me. So
yeah.
So she went to that place, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
And she also had a look at what he was after. And it's some module.
Yeah, there were weird discs, weren't they?
Yeah.
Not quite sure what they were, to be honest. They had writing on them because she had a look at them.
Yeah.
But I couldn't quite work out what they were for.
No. Obviously, that'll come into play at some point, won't it?
Yeah.
So she obviously did what she's supposed to do, let him in. And then, wasn't that the bit that she was some guy that was sent in to get the modules?
Well, there were two guys, weren't there? And when they came past her, she had her helmet on, and the helmet has some kind of computer display in the visor. And as they walked past, she was looking at them and trying to scan their faces to identify them.
And he was unidentifiable. It's like he hadn't been
it came up with no records and this, that, and the other. And she's like, who are these guys? So then as they left and they came out with these big, long cases, she was scanning them again. And it turned up they had these almost invisible tattoos on the back of their necks.
Yeah.
And then it showed up and she's like, oh, no. Because it turns out they're OPA, which is like the Belter kind of terrorist group.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So you're like, oh, God, that's not good.
Then, once they took it, she then obviously met up with that copper again, didn't she? And she confronted him about it.
And he said, I've kept my word. He said, David's at home. And she's like, stood to one side and checked. And then it turned out he was home. And then he knew again, like, he's obviously been keeping tabs on her because she had picked up like a screwdriver or something.
Yeah.
And he said, so now you don't need to shank me. We can have a conversation. And she was like, So they're on like a train or something. And he said, this is the way it's going to be. And he said, I've come to realize that somebody like you could be very useful to me. So it's like almost, I'm not done with you yet.
No.
And she's like, you come anywhere near him again, there's going to be a whole heap of trouble. I don't care what you are or who you are. She's like, you come for me again, you're going to know about it. And he's like, you're a good Martian. Mars needs more people like you going forward. And he's like, I'll be in touch. You take care now. And he got off the train and left her.
And then said, I'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Like 2 offers of jobs. Which one's she going to take?
Like
Christian offered a job last week and she wasn't sure about. Said no. He's offered her a job, but he's a criminal.
Yeah.
In a way. So she's like, oh, my life doesn't get any less complicated.
I know.
So yeah, that covered Christian and Bobby. Obviously, back at the Illus, the rebel Belters were planning their big, rebellion, weren't they?
Yes.
And they were in a hut, weren't they? I think.
Yeah, it looked like a shed, didn't it?
Yeah, and they were chatting away about it, and then all of a sudden, gas canisters or something came in, so that obviously they had to get out. And as soon as they got out, Owen's men were waiting, and they just killed them all.
It was a firing squad, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was awful.
And then the leader guy, was still partially alive, and he just walked over to him. And what did he say? What did he say to him?
Can't remember.
I told you.
Something like, I told you not to mess with me or something.
Yeah, and then because you got the viewpoint was as if we were seeing through his eyes from the ground looking upwards, and he stood over him with the gun, and he says, "Yeah, I warned you not to come messing with me," or something like that. And then he's like, "You didn't listen," and then he went bang, and he just finished him, and then that was the end of the episode.
It's like, how is it all going to affect the rest of them now? That's twice. He's killed that guy before, but now he's just massacred these other people. It's like, I bet Holden and that aren't going to be happy with this because he's really messing up their relationships with these people.
Absolutely.
And they've only gone down there to check out for the protomolecule.
Yeah.
And to check how safe it is for people to actually move on to the planet.
Mm-hmm.
What his agenda is, I have no idea now. He's got a rogue agenda, hasn't he?
What you've got to wonder about this guy as well, and the people that are with him, to be honest, not all of them, because obviously you've got scientists and doctors and things, but they're supposed to be a expedition group for an energy consortium.
That's what they were supposed to have gone for, but I think that was a cover story.
So it's like they're more like mercenaries.
Yeah.
The way that
really bad.
The way they're reacting and the heavy weaponry they've got and stuff like that, it's like, there's more going on here than we're being told at the moment.
But meets the eye, as the saying is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what happens next week.
Yeah.
So good. Because like I say, it's an overall program. There's stuff going. We've got like a normal thing that you have in normal countries, like we have with the Brexit and countries trying to. Obviously, we got Earth, Mars, and that, and various planets. So it's all about politics to a point. But then we have this sort of like alien type things that they find on these planets, which are obviously where they come into play and stuff like that, haven't you?
Yeah.
Which that's what makes it so interesting.
Mm.
Because at some point you go, well, this looks like normal place, doesn't it? You think, well, they're not in space, but they are actually.
Yeah.
You sort of forget sometimes, don't you, that they're not in space. And it's not like a space. Obviously, last year, series 4 was like against Mars, Earth and Mars, wasn't it? Going against each other. Hence why she went to Mars to go, like, we need peace and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
And these belters, obviously, they're people that, like people here that have been treated badly by the governments and stuff that just don't want to play ball anymore. So it's in space. So it's like, so cool. A little bit.
So good.
Yeah. I'm excited about that one.
That's all right. Don't be sorry. Right.
That's
well, there we go. So that's our complicated sci-fi chat for the week.
Yes.
So now let's move into the comic book realms again and the return of the Flash, which returned with not as much of a bang as I was hoping. It was a pretty solid episode, and it was intriguing for going forward. There was a lot of intriguing setup. It was very much like, okay, this is all done with. Crisis is over and done with. Now we're starting again. Now we're rebuilding. It felt almost like the beginning of the season again, in a way.
Yeah, it was like a new storyline, wasn't it?
Yeah, so this was called Marathon. Yeah, so the beginning part was the coffee shop. CC Jitters has a grand reopening, a post-crisis reopening thing, where they've got all these new coffees and things like that. And this guy comes in with a big gun, and the lady that's like running the place, she's like, "Oh, we've only just opened and we're being robbed already.
We have no money yet because
I know
enough stuff."
But luckily, the Flash was there to save the day.
We started causing destruction by shooting at things, didn't he? And then luckily Barry turned up to save the day.
Yeah, and he stopped he managed to stop a falling cup of coffee or a tray of coffee or something, and managed to apprehend the guy. And then he was like, "Hey, happy to help." And it was all very happy, jolly, superhero, comic booky, smiley Barry standing in the middle of a coffee shop with people cheering and clapping for him.
And then we went back to the, what's it called? Star Labs.
Yeah.
And we had Cisco and Frost talking about everyone living on the same earth.
And yes.
How did he get that t-shirt?
Cisco trying to get his head around it. And he's like, I don't understand all this. He's like, we're now living in a world where Superman and Supergirl and Batwoman and people like this all live on the same planet as us when they didn't before. And everyone's here that shouldn't be here. And Black Lightning's here and all of this. And where did I get this t-shirt from? And he ripped his shirt open and he had a Superman shirt on. That was
and
great.
Then he created a book of who's who of people that have old people they know, old enemies, and all these new people that have now got powers.
And what I loved about it was
that was so clever though.
It was they were trading cards. They were like collectible trading cards with
Match
the different
Attack or whatever.
yeah, like with the villains on. It's so cool. They had this like folder with all of these plastic inlays with all the cards inside them. And I did catch a few because I had to pause it because I had a phone call at the time when I was watching, and I had paused it at that moment. Crafty. And I was like, oh, that's kind of handy. And I looked and I was like, oh, there's Weather Witch and there's the Trickster and there's the Mist, who was a villain that was way back like 3 seasons ago. And there was also, what was cool, there was a card in there and it was somebody called Emily something. And I was like, who is that? So I typed her name into Google. Yeah, she's not a villain. She's actually one of the people that's written several episodes of The Flash. So they put like a little Easter egging of like Easter egg of one of the people that's involved in making the show. So that was quite funny. And there was also a character on there that would later go on to show up in the episode, which was quite interesting.
Oh.
Yeah.
But we had that. And then obviously they were chatting away and then there was this knocking. Because what's that? Oh, it's just the pipes.
Yeah.
Like, it's really annoying. It's like, and then we could see that somebody was in a cupboard that couldn't get out of the cupboard, and he kept No, it's just the cupboard. It's just the pipes. And then I sent Wells in to sort the pipes out, and then he also locked him in, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he eventually let him out, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And he had a chat with Cisco and Frost, didn't he?
Yeah.
Mm.
And Cisco is not a big fan of this, Wells.
No.
Because of everything that happened. And he's basically like, everything that happened is your fault. You are to blame for it. And he's like, yeah, but I'm also the one that saved everything because I was able to do this thing and that. And then he's like, dude, it doesn't matter. You
trying to justify himself, like, not working.
You put all this into play, and all these people. Yeah, okay, creation's been remade and stuff, but billions of people across the multiverse got wiped out of existence. And then he said, all the people that we've he said, Harry and who else did he say? He said Harry. He said Jesse and someone else he mentioned. He mentioned like 3 people in particular.
Connected to the original Wells, yeah.
And he's like, they're all gone. And he said, and the whole multiverse full of Harrison Wells have all gone. And we're stuck with you. We're stuck with the
He's so mean,
the perpetrator. And he was like really horrible to him. And he was really upset himself about all of this. And he's kind of like, I can't be around you. You're this reminder of everything negative. It's like, oh dear.
And then we had I think it was Iris and her crew, and they had a new headline. It's like, look, this is great. The headline's happy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a visitor. Diggle's in town.
Yeah. Barry turned up with him, didn't he? And he said, oh, I met him on my way back from somewhere. And he's like, hey. And he's like, the reason I'm here is because they did the reading. Now, this is weird. Now, the one thing I didn't like about this episode was the fact that this episode actually takes place before the finale of Arrow, because it happens prior to Oliver's funeral.
Right, that's why they showed it after.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying it annoyed me, because like in the timeline wise, they should have shown the Flash and then the finale of Arrow. Because now it's like slightly out. I mean, I said it's 1 week, next week's one.
But they wouldn't have done the reading of the will till after they buried him.
No. I mean, from everything that I've seen, it does seem to be the implication is the funeral. Because also Digger was on about the fact that he was planning on moving the family to Metropolis in a week, which is actually after the funeral. If you remember in Arrow, it was after the events of the funeral that he then packed up the family to move. Yeah, he said about the reading of the will, and he said that there was a thing for Barry, and he had this box, and he opened it, and it was Oliver's original mask.
Which Barry had made him.
Yeah, because it was when he was like going, you should cover up your face more than just putting a hood on. You should have something to cover your face as well. So he made him this mask. And he's like, it's Oliver's original mask he left for me. It's like, why would he leave me this? And then he was looking at it. And then he noticed this mark on it.
Yeah.
And straight away, he's like, there's a mark on it. This must mean something. What is this? We need to investigate. And then he decided to start. I mean, we may as well talk about that because this storyline was very simplistic, not really connected to anything else storyline.
Right.
So he analyzed it using the stuff in the lab, and it turned out it was residue of Mirakuru.
Yeah.
So he said, we need to take a trip to Lian Yu. And Diggle's like, you're not going to use your flash powers to take. And he's like, Dig, we have to go and investigate this. Oliver obviously left this to me as a clue for something to investigate. And he's like, but what if it, and he's trying to object. And Barry's like, no, it must be. That's what it must be. It must be this. And he's like, okay. And he said, but I don't want you flashing me there. And he's like, but it will take 20 plus hours.
Oh, that was so funny.
If we go on a plane, it's going to take 20 plus hours. I can get us there in next to no time. And he's like, oh. And so he talked him into it, and then eventually took him there. Because Diggle doesn't like being transported by Flash, does he?
No.
He always gets sick.
Feels sick, yeah, it's like.
So they went back to Lian Yu, and Barry is adamant that there's a mystery afoot. There's something that they have to find. And long and the short of it is that wasn't the case at all.
Right.
It was the Mirakuru was because of the last time they were there, because it led them, the trail and stuff of the residue and stuff led to that cell where they had kept Deathstroke.
Yes.
And Diggle said, I was here. Like, I came here with Oliver, and he said this was when it was around the time of the Mirakuru stuff. And that's why there's residue on it. There's no mystery to be solved here, Barry. But why would Oliver? And he's like, the symbolism. He said, do you not see? And then he kind of gave him which I thought was quite ironic in a way, again, because in the finale of Arrow, we see the whole thing of Diggle refusing to hang up the mantle and say, no, Oliver's fight still continues. We have to still carry on.
Yeah.
And this was what Barry was also trying to do. But Diggle was like, maybe that isn't what Oliver intended from this. Oliver intended something else. And then he's like, what the symbol represents. And it's about being there for the people that you care about and being a symbol of hope and doing the right thing and saving people and stuff like that. It doesn't mean that there's a bigger mystery. He gave you this for what it symbolizes rather than here's something you have to solve.
I suppose they threw it in obviously because they had to have a closure on their show about the Ollie.
Yeah.
The Arrow thing, didn't they, really? But like I say, timing was a bit rubbish. And he wasn't majorly involved in this program, really, was he?
No.
It was all about the rest of them. So I suppose they had to, but it's a Flash, so we better have Barry in it at some point.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, Iris got a suit, got a story.
Yeah.
There was a symbol from the last time, that thing they found, the girls.
Yeah, the weird ring with the swirly
that
symbol.
guy died. That guy that died got killed. In the car. Was it a car he got killed? It wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a guy.
Malcolm or something his name was, wasn't it?
They interviewed him like on a rooftop car park, and then shortly afterwards he was found dead.
And she got the scoop from this guy called, his name was Mr.
Husk. Yeah.
Husk. Oh, Husk. I get them all wrong. They speak wrong, and sorry, no disrespect to American. This is the way they say things. Always have Husk. Sorry. Yes. So yeah, and he was telling her about these baddies that live in the darkness, black hole.
Yeah, because he'd worked for the company he worked for was a place called McCulloch Technologies.
That's it.
And he said that there was something dodgy about them, and that he was on about this organization called Black Hole, and that there's an assassin, and that this assassin killed. There's this prototype weapon that was developed, and that this assassin is killing people. Yeah. And then we got to see the assassin, didn't we? Was it after that that we then got to see the assassin going and killing someone else?
Yeah. And it was they were after we saw them, they were attacking somewhere, weren't they? And wasn't it that was then they found that there was a bounty on Iris?
Yeah, because
was that after she did that and then went failed this time.
This female, it turns out it's a female assassin who's wearing like a suit with goggles, and she's got this big gun, and she killed somebody, and then it was after that it was like Iris is next on the hit list.
Yeah.
Because Iris is obviously investigating this group and where they're coming from and who's behind it and what the connection could be with this McCulloch Technologies. So it's like, take her off the board before she uncovers anything more.
Yeah. Team Citizen, they call themselves now, don't they?
Yeah.
The girls.
Yeah, including Cecile.
Cecile, yeah. They're going to investigate this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we had McCulloch, and Iris had gone there to see the guy who was in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And he started turning the tables, and he said Husk was the one.
Yeah, that's right.
And he said, I don't run the story about the robbery to save face. It's like, don't be silly, you just causing trouble. You don't want to get involved. You know what I mean? He's trying to, it's him. He's
like paranoid. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's suspicious because she's wondering what's happened to the person that actually owns the company, Eva McCulloch, who's this guy's wife.
Yeah.
And he's like, the wife mysteriously disappeared. And so she's thinking,
if you do, they said, if you don't, we'll sue you.
Yeah. So she was like, there's something not right about this. The way that he tried to ram down my throat that this other guy, Husk, is like a paranoid delusionist, and what happened to his wife. And there's something untoward going on there. So I'm going to run the story. I'm going to take the risk, and I'm going to run the story.
Yeah.
And they immediately sued her.
Yeah. And then that woman attacked her, didn't she?
Yeah.
And the bullet, because obviously it causes a black hole of some sort, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was like it caused like a black hole that then
disintegrates. But it caught her coat. It didn't actually hit her, but her coat had holes everywhere, didn't it?
So she was worried about the guy then, the one that like informed her of all this. So she went to meet up with him in like, was it like an underground car park or something? The way that they always tend to do that in these sort of situations where they're meeting an informant or whatever. It's always like in an underground car park. Yeah. And he was trying to speak to her, and he had something for it. Did he have like an access fob or something with like, it was like, see,
Yeah, it was
if
like
you don't believe me,
it was
see
like
for
a
yourself.
fob with a is it thumb drive, what do they call it?
Yeah,
As
and
well,
a security card and stuff.
And he was chatting to her, and then that woman shot the gun, and it made a black hole sized dint.
And then as he was disintegrating, he said something.
I thought he said mirror.
Yeah, I thought he said that too.
Yeah.
And then he
I wasn't quite sure.
was gone. And then she was getting shot at, so she had to hightail it out there as quick as she possibly could.
Because obviously in the meantime, Cisco knew she was in trouble, but he couldn't do anything because the breach thing's gone. They can't use it. And he couldn't contact Barry about what happened.
No.
So it's like, what are we going to do? So obviously that happened, and Iris said she got bashed a little bit, didn't she? But got away.
Yeah, it caught the side of her. So then she collapsed, didn't she, in the middle of the lab?
And then is when she got back to the lab, they was all talking. They found out some doctor called Kimyo Hoshi,
yeah, who was actually
an
like
astronomer
I said,
that went missing, and they reckon that's the suspect.
She was in that thing. That's who I was on about. So when at the beginning, when you had all those trading cards, she was actually one of them.
Ah, that's who it was.
And Cisco worked out based on the powers and this, that, and the other. And he said, "Oh, great! So we've now got an evil version of Dr. Light." Now, Dr. Light, we saw during the Zoom storyline. So if you go back a couple of seasons to when Zoom was in it, and it turned out this Dr. Light, that version of Dr. Light is not the same as this one. That version was the Earth 2 version of Barry's girlfriend. So you remember when Barry was going out with the other woman from the newspaper?
Oh, right, yeah.
And then this other woman, this Dr. Light, turned out to be her from Earth 2. And that's how Barry got through to her, because he called her by her name. And she was like, "How do you know my..." And he was like, "Because I know you," and all this stuff. And then they convinced her to kind of turn good because she was being blackmailed by Zoom. So they like helped her. So, but this one obviously is like an assassin. And it's like, it's not the same person, but it's Dr. Light. And now we've got this evil. And that's where he's like, again, another thing with this whole post-crisis world we live in. We've got all of these things to deal with. Talking about post-crisis and various other things in the world of DC. When he was having a go at Nash, what did he say to him when he told him to go away from here and stuff? And he said something about where like Grodd lives.
My God, is
He like told him to go there, didn't he? He was like, "Why don't you go out there or something?" You know.
But then later on, he had a bit of change of heart because he had the message about his wells, the wells that they knew, that you sent him a message.
Harry, yeah,
and he was like listening to the other wells' message, and he felt really responsible.
And he said, "I'm really sorry, I took all that out on you." And he said, "It's really hard to," and he's like, you know, everybody deserves a second chance and stuff like that. But I was so sad as well because you had the moment where Cisco broke down when Caitlin or Killer Frost was talking to him about the fact that he's no longer Vibe. So he got his powers back during Crisis, but that was just for Crisis. Yeah. So he's now back to being regular Cisco.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, about this new world we live in. And do you still think it was a good idea to take the cure? And he's like, "I don't know," because he felt like powerless of like, I can't help anybody. I can't really do anything.
Yeah.
Where do I fit now in this new world with all these new villains and these new heroes and stuff? Where do I fit into all of this? And he got really emotional, didn't he? He was actually crying and stuff. And it was like, oh, poor Cisco.
Yeah.
And he said, "I think I have to consider my place here."
It's like, no, it isn't like that.
Yeah.
We also had Iris and Joe chat when Joe was telling her she's taken too many risks on her own.
Yeah, and he's like, "Don't do this, don't pursue this.
Don't do that," and then she carries on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was great, wasn't it? The CEO of McCulloch we found out was that bloke was working with the black hole.
Yeah.
And then they decided to lay a trap for him, which was the hologram of Iris. Because Iris wasn't there, was she?
Yeah, so they were like, we need to isolate Dr. Light and take her off the board. And we're going to do like a two-pronged attack. So Iris, he's obviously set the thing in motion to go and kill Iris.
Yeah.
But they're going to take him by surprise because Iris is going to show up at his building to interview him. So they got all the press there. And she's going to turn up to interview him there while they set a trap for Dr. Light, which they did by using a hologram program that Cisco had made.
Yeah. So that was really clever, wasn't it? I love that.
And then you had like a face-off between her and Killer Frost.
Oh, so yeah, obviously she confronted him about it and said something about the dead man, the switch.
Yes.
to protect her friends.
So basically, if anything happens to her, it will automatically, all the information she's got will all be published and revealed to like all of the different press outlets. So it'll completely discredit him.
And that was just before she was going to annihilate, because she did something to her and she sort of pulled out, because that's the best you got. And then she went, no, I got more.
Yeah, because
she's going to go for it, wasn't she? She's not Killer Frost anymore, she's Frost.
Yeah, that's right. She said that, didn't she? She said, not just Frost now. So yeah, she was able to, because she used her powers to stop the, whatever the particle is, the black hole thing. And she turned it into like a crystal or something, didn't she? And then the woman was like...
It's like pulled out of herself, said, oh, what's this?
And Dr. Light was like, maybe next time I need to aim for the head then. Like, and just as she was about to, that's when Iris got through to him.
With that other guy.
And he was like, fine. So he rang her and he sort of said something about the basket, like take the eggs out of the basket or something. I can't remember. Whatever the code was for like cancel the hit, don't do it. So she was like, oh, so she stood down.
But that was good. And then we had the bit with Cisco, and he was talking to Wells and he decided he's going to leave.
Yeah.
And he told him he's got to hold down the fort while he's gone.
It's like, if you really want to make up for things, basically you need to take my place. You're clever, you're technologically minded, you're a Wells. So you step in for me, and I'm going to go off.
He thought he was tricking him.
Yeah.
But did you notice when he picked that photograph up, that was him and Jesse?
Was it Jesse or was it the other girl?
No, but I think it might be, because remember we had this story about we thought it's our Wells.
Yeah.
Just pretending not to be our Wells.
And
my personal feeling was like, he looked sad himself, because thinking, it deceived him. He's going now, but because I deceived him as well. And the picture was him and his daughter.
See, I thought it was Allegra. I thought it was the girl, because of him taking so much of an interest in her since he's come to our Earth. But
it would have been better if it wasn't, because then that way, after what we'd said, the fact that he had to go undercover, couldn't befriend them because he knew what was going to happen. He knew what was going to happen in the future.
Yeah,
he had to be this paragon. It would have been worse if he'd been all pally with them again like before. But he's never got a chance to tell him. It's like, for some reason he can't.
Yeah.
But, I might be wrong.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully that'll come out more as we go along. But Cisco, the other reason he's leaving, he said that he basically wants to work out how the world is now. Because he's like, now the world's changed, not just where he fits in, but also what else is out there now that all of these universes have been smushed together into one planet. What else have we got out there? And I can reveal exclusively,
he's gone out of it.
No, he hasn't. So it seemed like that was his exit, but it turns out he's not leaving the show for good. It is a brief hiatus from the show, but it's part of something bigger.
Oh.
So apparently whatever, I don't know what because they didn't reveal the details. They just said, don't worry, he has left the show for now.
In one of the other shows.
But he's going to be, no, he's going to be back in The Flash. He will be returning to The Flash, and him going off is part of a bigger story. Whether that plays out as part of the rest of this season or whether it goes into the next season, I don't know. But it's part of a bigger picture thing that there's like an in-story reason for Cisco going off out into the world. So I was like, oh, that's really intriguing. What does that mean? What's that? What is he going to uncover while he's out in the world? So I was very intrigued by that.
Can't lose Cisco. It's not the same.
No.
So then we had the bit with Barry and Iris having a chat about the Ollie thing and the mug and blah, blah.
And what they have to, like, the world that they live in now, that they need to slow down a bit and appreciate what we have and stuff.
You haven't got to rush around like we were doing. Like, obviously, when Joe was talking to her, he said, like, I'm going to solve all the crimes while I could.
Yeah.
I thought it was too late. You need to, like, slow down. He said the same thing to her. And then did they go to sleep and she woke up thinking about the case she'd been covering?
Yeah, something triggered in her mind, didn't it? She was something like, there's something was niggling her. So she went into like the living room and she was looking over all the stuff, and there was it a photograph, and it had 3VA on it. And then
it was AVA.
Oh no, it was AV3. That's right. It was AV3. And she looked at that, and then she stopped and she remembered the guy and what he said, and he said, mirror.
Yeah.
And then she looked at the mirror And she was like,
She kept looking.
And she held up the picture, and where it said 3VA, AV3, it was Eva in reverse.
Yeah.
So she went, So she got all the stuff and she went back to McCulloch.
McCulloch place to go.
And she went to that room and she used
and it had,
ring.
She didn't know how to get in, and then she went, "Oh, it's like a circle." She went, "Oh, this thing we found that time."
Yeah, the black hole symbol.
That opened the door. She got in, and everything was covered up, wasn't it? She started looking through stuff.
She uncovered the table, and there was a computer and stuff. She took some pictures of some files, turned the computer on, and while the computer was loading up, she was looking around again, saw this big thing behind her, and then there was a big mirror. And she's like, "What were you doing here? What is going on here?" And she's like, "What?" And then before she had the chance to do anything more, she reached out to the mirror, and then the computer beeped.
Well, she just put her hand on it, didn't she? Like, see, is this going to do something?
No, she didn't quite make it. She was reaching for it, and just before her hand touched the mirror, the computer beeped. So she turned around to look at the computer, but then
somebody grabbed her.
Like silvery, like metallic, almost like hands came out of the mirror.
Pulled her into the mirror.
And pulled her in.
Yeah. Like, oh my God.
And that was how it ended.
I know.
So it's like, what the hell was that all about? Who was in the mirror? What's the deal with the mirror?
Yeah.
So like I said, it was a interesting episode back because it really seemed to be we're laying the foundations for the next story.
Yeah.
You know, this seemingly sort of spy journalistic related main story was actually just the foundation for something much bigger.
Yeah.
With this McCulloch organization.
I thought it was
this weird black hole organization with their weaponry, and then this mirror world or something. I don't know really what to think of it.
I watched out early hours of the morning. So I was very pleased I did. It's like we were excited about Flash coming back, so yes.
So yeah, not quite the bang I thought it was going to come back.
It opened a lot of ideas and stuff like.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it was negative. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I'm just saying I thought it was going to come back in a different way to how it came back, but it was still very intriguing because it's laying the foundations for this second half of the season now.
Like, ooh.
So there we go. So that's one comic book show. So then that takes us on to the second comic book show, which was Legends of Tomorrow. And this episode...
It's a very comically booked show.
Yes. And the episode 3 called Miss Me, Kiss Me, Love Me. So what did you think then?
Wow, yes. It was a good start. Because obviously at the beginning we had Constantine had gone to hell last week.
Yes, that's right.
To see Astra about the souls she'd released. So he went down and she wasn't playing ball, was she, basically?
No.
It's like, no.
Well, no, because because now she seems to be in charge of hell, she's in no hurry to relinquish any of her power. I love the fact as well that it was like a nightclub or something that she was in, and she was like sat over in the corner, like, you know, like you see in these like gangster things or whatever. And she was talking about how, why would she do anything differently? Because having those souls back on Earth is making her very rich. And I was like, rich? What do you need money for? But then she went on to say about all of the people that get corrupted instantaneously makes all those souls hers. So she's meaning rich as in currency of souls. It's like, oh, okay, now that makes more sense. So I'm glad that they followed up and clarified that, because I was thinking, why would you need money if you're like in hell? So that was a bit strange. But also that guy was there, wasn't he? You know, the one that was in the young boy the other week.
Oh, yeah.
And he was on the floor being tortured. And Constantine was kind of like saying about not doing, you know, why are you doing this and all this lot? And she said, oh, the only way you'd be able to stop me is if you killed me. And obviously he wasn't willing to do that. So he was like, ugh. So he left and went back to the Wave Rider, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a bit despondent. So he said, she can't be reasoned with. So then we also had the bit where we had Nate trying to get Gideon to remember that thing he'd seen.
The message.
Like, trying to solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
And what was this bit about the Encores, keeping the Encores on the ship?
Because that's what they decided to call them, because obviously it's the Legends. So they can't, they had to come up with a name for these historical villains that are returning, so they decided to call them encores.
Because the argument was it encores or I remember what the other one was last week.
And that's what they settled on encores, and they said because they can't, because basically they can't send them back to hell, because if they send them back to hell, she'll just send them back to Earth again. So it's like it'd be a loop. It'd be like, well, they'll go back there, but then she'll just send them back. So they need to keep them on the ship. And then they were like, and then Ray looked at all the jars of Rasputin, and he went, I think we're going to need a bigger pantry. And then we got the new opening credits. What did you think of them?
I loved it. Yeah.
It's like very punk rock, wasn't it?
We had a new one in Flash as well, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
It's like different, but this one I really liked. So I thought, I forgot to mention the Flash one as well.
It was like a punk rock comic strip, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really cool.
Or like jaggedy around the edges and stuff like that. And the music has been given a bit of a sort of, again, like a punky makeover and things like that, which is cool because Legends hasn't really changed its opening credits since the show started.
No.
You get like little tweaks, you know, it looks a bit more polished, or like they've done special openings for certain episodes. Like, you know, like the time when they went back to Japan and it was like the Godzilla one. And it was all in Japanese, and they've had slightly different looking fonts or, you know, things at the beginning. But like generally speaking, it's been the same opening credits.
Yeah.
Whereas this was completely new, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like a do-over, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we had B was decided. I can't remember his name, so she calls him B, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So he decided to take Nate to meet his family, which I thought, okay, this could be fun.
Because it was the dad's birthday.
That's it. It's Dad's birthday. He said, why don't you come along? It's like, okay, cool.
Because he had a weird moment, didn't he? He basically saw him as Zari.
Yeah, he looked at him and they went, what happened there?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, very strange. And so he went off, but then they got a new mission, came upon the Gideon thing.
A new time quake.
1947 LA, Hollywood and crime, and said, so Sarah said who she was taken, and she left Ava with Mick.
Yeah.
With Rory. I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. Yeah, so we got Nate had gone to B's house, and his sister arrived, a socialite, and it was Zari.
Well, yes. I mean, so you had the introduction to the parents, and basically B was saying that Nate was his professor. So he's coming up with his cover story of like, this is my professor. And he's like, oh, what do you teach? And oh, you know, you come up with some flannel, and they're chatting away. And then you hear all this commotion and all these people come in. And then she's there and she's got her phone. And then it's like, oh, she's like a social media influencer. And she's like, you know, like vlogging and stuff. And she's like, okay, guys, love you. Bye. And all of a sudden, and then she's like, okay, yeah, splice that in afterwards, blah, 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 blah. And then she comes in and it's like, oh, okay, this Zari, but it's very different. Zari,
yeah.
She's very much like the, you know, all very well. She's an influencer, and it's very much like them taking the piss out of.
Oh yeah, well they do.
You know, social media celebrities and stuff like that. It was the real extreme sort of version of it.
Because obviously he didn't know who she was. He knows she's the same person he's seen, but he doesn't know what the connection is.
Yeah.
And he was trying to explain that to B, wasn't he? About telling him about this hologram thing, and he was looking at him like.
Yeah, because he was wondering why are you acting so weird around my sister?
Around my sister, yeah. I've seen her before. I know her. I don't know what it is. And he's like, I've seen a hologram, and he's looking at him like, you've lost the plot, mate.
Yeah.
Right. So then we went back to Legends. We'd gone to 1947 LA, and they had gone to a private eye's office called Webb and Moore.
Yeah.
Oh, that was cool because they were all like dressed to the part, weren't they? Did he say something about there was magical residue in this office? Yeah,
it was hellfire, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And this woman turned up with a gun. She'd obviously come to kill somebody, but not them.
Yeah.
The guy was it Webb, the guy she was going to kill?
Yeah.
Because he messed up something with her. But it was his nickname Bugsy. Was he the one that was Bugsy? Or was it Moore that was Bugsy?
Yeah, neither of them are Bugsy. You're getting yourself confused there. Yeah, basically, she had hired this firm to protect her from her boyfriend, Bugsy Siegel.
Oh, right, yeah.
Who had returned from the dead. And they were trying to pretend that they were actually... Cause she's like, who are you guys? And they were like, we are I'm his partner, and this is my secretary. And stuff like that. And he had Constantine was putting on an American accent and stuff. It was really funny. And what was funny about it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Columbo or something, because of him having that long coat he wears and stuff, and he was putting on this American accent, and I was like, he's like he could be a private investigator. You know, it was quite funny. But yes,
took a bit of umbrage to being called secretary there.
Yes. And then she explained that obviously he died, but now he was back again. I was like, oh, okay. And then said about he was running this nightclub or something, and she said she's scared of him because he's different than he was before. And she said, you know, he was never a saint before, but now he's different, and she didn't want to be with him, but she can't leave him. And so they were like, oh, this, you know, not only is this, you know, obviously the encore we're after, but this needs further investigating, kind of thing.
Yeah. So they said they take the case.
Yeah.
And then she's got Ava and Rory to come to the club to just be there for like backup or if they needed them.
Yeah.
And Ray was undercover as a cop.
Yeah. He made quite a good cop, didn't he?
Obviously, before they went there, they had said to her she needed to get out of town, didn't they? And she said she had no money.
Yeah.
And Ray gave her a wad of money and said, you get out of town. But when they got to the club, she was there, wasn't she, with him?
Yeah.
And she hadn't left town at all. Sarah's plan was, right, I'm going to try and woo him.
That was great. It was all typical Legends. It was all innuendos and stuff, and about like, hey, how about you come outside and take a look under my trunk and all of this kind of stuff. Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah, she got him to get out, but there was some hitmen after him, weren't they?
Yes, they were a rival gang, weren't they?
But he got a gun out, and it was a green gun.
And it was, obviously like a magical gun. Like that's obviously what the Hellfire was. And it one bullet disintegrated them all, because it like went into one, blew it up into dust. Then it sort of whirled around and went into the next person, did the same to them, and then like wiped them all out. So then Ray came out and tried to arrest him.
Yeah.
But then these other cops came and they were like, it's all right, son, we'll take it from here. And they took him out and they were like, oh.
I automatically said they're road cops.
Yeah.
He's probably high profile. They'll take him so they can go. It was all misunderstanding and let him go. So Ray decided to snoop, didn't he? He went to back to the station as well, didn't he?
To see if he could find out what the deal was with the cops and Bugsy. Yeah.
Yep. So then back with Nate at the house, Ziri was saying that she thought his friend was a stalker.
She wasn't very impressed with him, was she? She was a bit like, okay.
He kept staring at her all the time.
Yeah. Because they were all sat around the dinner table at this point.
Yeah. And he's just like staring straight at her. And she goes, your friend's a stalker. And he spotted the totem on the picture.
Yeah, there was like a family portrait, wasn't there?
And because he's supposed to have stolen it, hasn't he, brother?
Yeah.
Because it's him that's supposed to have stolen it. He nearly dropped him in it, didn't he?
Yeah, because he just blurted out, didn't he? Sort of went, oh, is that the air totem? And they went, how do you know about our family totem? You know, that. And then he went, oh, well, you know, with being a professor and stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then Zari was sort of like looking at, like, when they were talking, because B was looking very uncomfortable and she was like looking at both of them. And the mum was saying about how it had been stolen and stuff like this. And it was like, oh, no, she seems like she's on to them. This isn't going well.
It got very, very, yeah. But he's going to, and then luckily, he sort of nudged him or something, didn't he?
Yeah, shut up.
So then we went back to this Hollywood.
Yeah.
And we had Rory and Ava, obviously, were just there just in case, and they were getting drunk at the bar, weren't they?
Yeah, good old Mick. The solution to everything is let's get drunk.
It was a perfect. He thought, I don't mind. There's beer. I'm all right. And she was getting bored, saying, "Oh, I used to run everything." Because obviously, that's why she's part of them now, because they cut off her income, and now she's working with the Legends.
Oh yeah, because she's
I used to be in charge, and now behind the scenes. You just stuck me behind the scenes. It's like getting a bit frustrated with that. You could talk about this bit, the bit where Constantine had found that card with something written on it.
Right. So they realized that the gun could be useful. So that was one of the things. And then Ray also was at the police station and confirmed that the LAPD were working with Bugsy because he was watching them in the office. And the next thing they got out like It was like they were giving him a steak dinner or something. They got like food out and tea and stuff like that. And it's like, oh yeah, they're treating. And then this other cop approached him and sort of said about him being a good cop. And he said his name was Sullivan. And he said, you know that he's crooked? And he's like, yeah. And he said, I'm sick and tired of it. Like, basically us hardworking cops and this guy's got them under his thumb sort of thing. So it's like, oh, interesting. So Ray reported that back. Ray, Constantine, then was it a book of matches?
Matches, yeah, because when he's fat, he couldn't light a cigarette, could he?
Yeah, and he
found
the message.
And then he read it, yeah, it's the message said 753, was it Elysium?
Elysium, yeah.
Elysium,
and he looked at it and he seemed to know what it meant. Obviously, at the time, we didn't know what it meant. And so then he went and met up with the girlfriend and told her he knew where, because this was the other thing. The other reason she couldn't leave him was because he had a thing, like some stash of information or something that he was using like as blackmail. Like, like if you ever try and leave me, then, I've got this stuff on you kind of thing. So Constantine was like, I know where the stuff is. And he's like, you need to get this gun that he's got, this special gun, you need to get hold of it.
Yeah.
And if you do that, I'll take you to where this stuff is and we'll get it and then you'll be free.
Yeah.
And then something kicked off then between her and him, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like, again, very much in a noirish detective thriller thing. The detective and the damsel in distress had a moment.
Yeah, because he said he wasn't prepared to do anything for her as well unless she got the gun. She had to get the gun first and then he'd sort it all out for her. So back at the club, Ava and Rory have been told they have to cause a distraction to catch Bugsy.
Yeah.
So Ava decides, I know what to do. What was funny about this is obviously she'd gone off and then we saw her. Was that what we saw her singing?
Yeah, because we saw the thing about the diversion and then it cut away from there again back to the police station because Ray was trying to get involved with Bugsy and stuff and nearly got himself shot. And then Bugsy left and Sarah got in touch with him and then he
told him to get back to the club, didn't
he? And then he was sort of stood there and then this Officer Sullivan guy pulled up in the car and he was like, "You back on the beat there, officer?" And he was like, yeah. And he said, well, if you're interested, we're going after Bugsy. And he's like, really? And he's like, yeah. And he said, I could use another good man. And he's like, I'm with you. And he jumped in the car.
Yeah.
And then that was that. And then it went back to the club and it was all high production values. And it was Ava on stage in a cocktail dress with Sarah and I couldn't work out who else. Sarah was one of the backing singers.
Yeah. I don't know who the other one was.
And a big, like a swing band behind her. And this was, again, another one of those moments that Legends does brilliantly because Ava was singing Belle Biv DeVoe's Poison, but like with a 1940s swing band.
Yeah.
So it was so good. And I was like, this is brilliant. I'm singing along to this song and going, I love this, that girl is poison. And it was just so funny. And it was like, wow, this is so cool. Like, and she was doing all these high notes and stuff. And then there was a bit where she did a big note and the camera panned out and then something changed and there was people running out of the club and stuff. And then you realize that none of that was real.
And she just her up there drunkenly singing.
Yeah, so that was obviously all in her imagination.
Yeah.
And she was singing really badly and stuff like that. Oh, it was hilarious.
Yeah, because they got everyone out because they were going to try and confront him, weren't they? They wanted to keep him. Yeah, so the woman managed to switch the gun, didn't she?
Yes. Because he was like, what's going on here? And he was like, why are all these people running out of my club? And he's like, you brought me down here to see this broad and all this lot. And he's like, with the terrible voice. And Sarah, even though she was like, hey, that's my girlfriend and all this stuff. And she's kind of like, don't be horrible about her. She's doing her best. She's having a good time, sort of thing.
And we had that after that bit, we had a little snippet where we went back to Nate again. And Zeri was pretending she remembered him.
Yeah, she said, you
to
do
find out about because he mentioned the totem. She was thinking, I'll pretend I do. Yeah, you do seem familiar. Maybe we have met. But she was trying to get information off him, wasn't she, to find out about the totem?
Made him quite uncomfortable because she sort of like kicked off her shoes and she was like crawling along the sofa towards him and stuff. And he was like, obviously, because he's got feelings for her, he's sort of like, oh. And she's like, there's some kind of spark or some kind of connection. I don't know what it is. And, I feel like, you're not normally my type, but maybe you would have been in another life or something like this. And, she's sort of playing on little bits and you're like, oh, you're clever. You're clever, you are. And then Nate looked like he was about to succumb to sort of revealing everything to her, but luckily B walked in and went, hey, they're ready to cut the cake now or something. And then he's like, what are you doing? And he was like, I just really don't know.
Didn't she sort of almost admit that she said, well, it was worth a try? Or something?
Yeah.
She obviously made out, I don't know who you are really, but I'm just trying to find stuff out from you.
Uh-huh.
So then we went back to, right, so they had to go to a place called Burbank.
Yes.
And the numbers are for a gravestone.
Yeah, that's right.
The numbers off the card. It's obviously somebody's name, and was it the plot number, and then the name was the person.
Well, yeah, because he said about the Elysium clue was the fact, he said, like in mythology, like the gates of Elysium is to do with heaven, and Elysium is associated with the afterlife. So obviously it's a cemetery. And he said these numbers refer to the grave plot and things like that. So then, yeah, it led them to this grave. And then he was feeling around. There was like a secret compartment or something, wasn't there?
Yes, the bricks come out and there was where everything was stashed, all his papers.
Yeah. And so he's like, there you go, love. That's all your stuff there. And then she took it and then refused to give him the gun and basically held him at ransom, didn't she?
Yeah, because he said, well, no, did he say he was going to burn them? Because we want to get rid of this. And then she said, no, I want them still.
Yeah.
But she wasn't going to give him the gun until he handed the papers over.
Mm-hmm.
And then that road cop was there and he was going to kill her, wasn't he?
Yeah, they showed up at the cemetery and obviously revealed that this was all a big targeted plot because Bugsy was going to show up there. And so they were going to, and then it turns out he was working for this or with this rival gang.
Like with some mob or something.
And Ray's like, what? I thought, why did you need me here then? And he's like, we needed a patsy. He's like, we need somebody to be the fall guy. So he handcuffed Ray to the steering wheel. And then they're obviously going to kill this girl, which is going to draw Bugsy out, which then they would obviously take care of Bugsy in their mind.
Yeah. Oh, that was bad though, wasn't it? Because obviously she managed to give Constantine the gun.
Yeah.
Ray was worried about it, tried to warn her, and then bang, boom.
Yeah, because she was.
That blew up.
They triggered the car to explode. Yeah.
It's like, whoa, that's a bit evil.
And then Ray got out just like too late, and he was like still attached to the steering wheel.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? He had the steering wheel hanging from his arm. But yeah, that was like, oh my God. So again, very gangster-like, that this execution in a cemetery and the car explodes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then Constantine was fuming.
Yeah. So when she had handed him the gun, did she not tell him there was only so many bullets left in it or something?
Mm-hmm.
As well. So Sarah got Bugsy and took him onto the Wave Rider.
Yeah.
And Constantine is going to take him back to hell with him.
He just he took over, didn't he? He came storming in and he was like, you Sunshine are coming with me. Yeah. And he made his magic circle and he cut his head or something. And then he got blood and he put it all over his face and they were all going, ooh, Mick was turning his nose up at this. And then he because he licked some of the blood and all of this lot. And then he was doing his, his chanting and he was like, you're my ticket in, mate. And he grabbed Bugsy. And then he was like, usual thing applies. And then he's like, big man, light her up. And Mick sort of what? And then okay. Fired his gun at the circle and set it on fire. And then they went back to hell. And then, he walks into the club and he's just walking through and everybody that's trying to stop him, he's like, bang, shooting them with this magic gun.
Yeah.
And then he gets in front of Astra and she's like, oh, you come back again. And he's like, basically, this is it. He's fed up and all of this stuff. And basically said that he wouldn't kill her.
Yeah, and he said he wasn't going to give up on her.
Yeah.
Redeeming her.
Because he'd thought about the things Ray had said and stuff like that. And so he's like, I'm not, if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to redeem you. And then he said, but I can put a spanner in your cogs. So he said that there's one bullet left. And so he turns and shoots Bugsy with it. And then throws the gun down. And he was like, that was for Jeannie.
Yeah.
And then he went back to the ship. Because the timer thing on his magic circle was up, and
pulled him back, so he went back.
And he said the gun's gone, and the Astra's still there. And then Ray came up to him or something, and went I knew you were a good man, or something like this, or I know that there's good in you, or something along those lines. Anyway,
And we had Ava still remember singing and still drunk.
Yeah, because they were like, Sarah was talking to Mick and sort of saying about what happened and don't want to embarrass her. And, she's going to feel so bad about what happened. And we don't want to make it any worse for her than it is and stuff. And she comes in and she was like, I was singing. I can't believe it. Oh, my God. I was amazing.
She grabbed some more alcohol and he said, I spat in that one and she drank it anyway.
Yeah. And then she
stopped her drinking and she just grabbed it off and carried on singing.
And she's like, oh, it's such a shame nobody got a recording. And Mick was like, well, actually, and he went for his phone. And Sarah was like, no, unfortunately, nobody did and stuff like that. And then she went, oh,
don't encourage her.
And then she was like, it was great. I was there and I had a kick-ass band and these backing singers and everybody loved it and all this lot. And then she's going, echo is poison and all this lot. And then she passed out and she was like snoring. Oh, it was so funny.
It was funny. And then we went back to Nate.
Yes.
And Zari had sussed him because something about Hayworld. She'd seen something about Hayworld.
Well, they were getting ready to leave, weren't they? And then she came up to them in the hallway and she said, I knew what it was. She said, so when I said about you being familiar, I meant that bit. And then she said, look at this. And she showed them the pictures from the Hayworld. And she was like, how are you both? This was 20 years ago. And she's like, and she noticed that he had the totem as well. And she said to him about the totem and they were like, oh. And then they were like, we can explain and all this kind of stuff. And she's like, no, it's not good enough. You had your chat. And she said, I knew something was up here. And she said, I'm going to tell mum and dad. And she went to call them. And before anything could happen, B pressed the button. As she was walking down the corridor, instead of walking down the corridor in her house, she went through one of their time doors and she was on the ship. And then she's like, what? Wait, where? What? Who are you people? Where am I? And they were like,
didn't Sarah say something like, what have you done, Nate?
Yeah. And she's like, B, what's going on here? And he went, guys, this is my sister. And then she was like, ah.
Yeah.
And then it did the closing music, and that was the end.
Yeah. Because do they remember Zari? Or nobody remembers
Nobody remembers Zari.
Yeah.
The only person
that's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, the only person that has any clue of anything now is Nate because of seeing that hologram and having something stirred deep within his memories.
Yeah.
But none of the rest of them have any recollection of her being a part of this team or anything like this. So
it's quite ironic, really, isn't it? I don't know if it was last week or when we were talking generally. You mentioned, I wonder if we'll see her again.
Yeah.
She'll come back not like to see her again, but she'll end up back with them.
Yep. And now she's back on the.
And how's that going to work? Because he'll disappear again. And then now we've got both of them now. Got the brother and the sisters. Like, okay. Oh.
So it's going to be interesting now because this is not Zari. This is not like.
Yeah, especially the character she's playing now.
The
socialite and all this, the sort of like Eva.
Yeah.
This is going to be quite fun. So it doesn't look like Charlie hasn't come back, has she? She wasn't in it.
No, but her name was on the credits, so.
But they haven't really said anything about it, have they? Like where she's gone or anything. So that's really bizarre.
Maybe that's going to tie into something else. I don't know.
Yeah. But yes, again, full of, I like obviously Bugsy Malone, the type of the era it was. And there's always like, even though it's a serious story, there's always so much fun in it.
Yeah. What I love as well is that each episode, they always take from something. So this one was like a sort of gumshoe detective noir gangster sort of movie type episode, wasn't it? In tone, just the way that, and like the way they spoke, and I was all like, hey, all this kind of stuff. Oh, it's just great. And like the way that they incorporate things like I know that song's not a modern song as such because it's like from the 80s, but it's modern in comparison to 1947. So they were able to incorporate that into the show in a way that like it seemed like it should exist in that time frame. It's just things like that. It's just a bit really like clever.
That rewatched it's Time Waste. What's it called?
Yes, a bit like Time Wasters. Yeah.
when they used to incorporate really modern songs into jazz and in different time frames, I was like, that's so clever. I like that version of that song.
Yeah.
So took a note of that, didn't they?
Yeah.
But the whole thing, and then but Rory wasn't in it a lot, but little when he comes into it, it's just those, even if it's just a minuscule moment, it's just like, oh, I'm so glad he's in the program. And Ray just embraces every character that he gets given.
Yes.
Regardless, whatever era they go to, it's like, oh, I'm this now. Oh,
it's such
so
a shame.
excitable.
It's a shame that he's leaving this season because he's like, I mean, he's always been great on the show anyway, but I feel like they've, especially since the crossover, they've really stepped up Ray's presence and Ray's lines and things like that. And it's like, oh, I'm going to really miss Brandon Routh when he leaves.
Yeah, he's going to be missed. It's like losing Dibney off of Flash, isn't it?
Yeah.
When he's not in it, it's like, oh, I love this comedy.
Yeah.
Because I know the other guy's good, but I can't see him stepping up to somebody else's after. I'll have to take over from that side of it, I think.
Well, I mean, it's weird though, isn't it? Because if obviously what we believe is going to be true is that he's going to be replaced with the new Atom, with Ryan Choi, who isn't really a comedy character. So it is going to be reliant on Rory and Nate and stuff like that. To
if they keep B in it, B's quite comical, so he's quite with his pot smoking and everything.
Yeah, guess.
But maybe him and Nate and because those two like bounce off each other, don't they? Nate and Ray. So maybe he'll be the new sort of character that does that. Maybe. We'll see. Have to see.
That was the other thing that we forgot. You just reminded me, actually, that when Nate was telling B about this thing with the sister and meeting before and things with Hayworld and that, he was like, bro, did you get into my stash?
Yeah. So we got him, we got a pot smoking one and an alcoholic one.
Yeah, I know.
And a really bad singer one.
Yeah.
A delusional singer. But yeah, it's just so, after like all sort of intense things, it's sort of just like, we don't expect it to be serious. We expect it to be cheesy.
It's the most comic book of all the shows, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like we've said before, though, it knows it is, and it wears that badge proudly and sort of says, yep, we're zany,
even in the crossovers,
and
it makes sure they know that, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing I can sort of compare it to in a way for people that aren't familiar with it is that if you're familiar with Deadpool and the way that Deadpool in the Marvel universe breaks the fourth wall, and he'll talk openly about the fact that I'm a comic book character, this is a comic book, things like that. Legends does the same thing. Legends is like, basically saying that to the audience of like, yeah, we're aware we're a comic book TV show. Like the way that they talk about the crossover. There's a crossover. No one else referred to it as a crossover. None of the other shows, Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Black Lightning, nothing. None of them sort of said, oh, we're in a crossover. Legends, they're like, yep, it's a crossover. Oh, is it crossover time again? Why wasn't I invited to the crossover? All this kind of stuff.
like we know, because it's advertised to us as a crossover, but
yeah,
they're living on our world rather than their world.
Obviously, in the show, it's just our friends are teaming up with each other to to come together against a common enemy. Whereas the Legends is like, it's a crossover.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great program. Dear.
Brilliant. Really, really good. Really, really enjoyable. Can't wait until see what the hell they get up to next week.
Yes, indeed. Well, they've got so much scope because it's time travel. So there's so many, and they cover lots of historical stuff, don't they, as well? It's great. You've got so much scope what they can do with that program.
I'm sure I've said this in the past as well, but what I love as well about this show is that I feel that they do time travel so much better than Doctor Who. Considering that Doctor Who's been around for like nearly 60 years now, going on 60 years, that the way they do time travel, like, for example, the costume thing, they're always dressed appropriately for the time that they go to. They always try and find ways to blend in and stuff like that. And I know that in Doctor Who over the years, they have done, but other times they just throw that away and just kind of go, yeah, it doesn't matter whether they're wearing modern clothes. We'll just gloss over it and stuff, Whereas this, they're always like, let's get, Gideon to synthesize us some clothes to wear that that will fit in with the time period and things like that.
Apart from Constantine, always looks the same.
Yeah, but then he looks like a man out of time anyway. The way. Oh dear!
It's just a good program. It's brilliant.
Indeed,
I love it.
So
that's it.
That's it. Yeah, well, we are done for this week.
So we got everything back next week. Supergirl's back next week.
No, Supergirl's not back until the week after.
So what else have we got next week? It's the same as this week.
Yeah, but wait, have we got The Walking Dead? No, The Walking Dead.
16th, that is.
Which is also when Supergirl's back.
Yeah. Yes, we've got 3 next week, and then we've got 4 the following week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
and
so.
And then it starts building up into 5 and 6.
Yeah.
Till the first lots finish again, and then we add some more to that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there we go then. So, and there's one other thing quickly.
Yep.
During the course of us recording, I just wanted to let you know I got another message. This was not on the videos or anything like that. This is a private message I got from Skippy.
Yes.
And Skippy said that he hasn't quite finished listening to the last podcast yet, but he wanted to send a message to wish you a happy birthday, a belated happy birthday, and also to say that his favorite moment from our first year was all of our discussions on Lucifer. And he said, I really enjoyed watching it along with you two. So for him, that was the highlight. So there you go.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Skippy. You got in there just in the nick of time.
Just in the nick of time, yeah. See? Although if you've done it normally, it would have did it different recording date today at this time, haven't we? But
that's right.
It would have got in time.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool. Yeah, so that was good chat.
Yeah, so thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And if you did enjoy it and you're on the YouTube video, then please hit that thumbs up button and leave us a like. And also leave your comments down below too, so we can find out your thoughts. And if you've got any questions or any reactions to any of the things that we've discussed, then we would love to hear them. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. That would be greatly, greatly appreciated. Help build the numbers of this kingdom of geeks. Check out the description box for a whole bunch of links that will take you to various places, and none of which you have to do anything with. But if you did, we would really, really appreciate it. They include the link to my Twitter, the link to the merch shop. There are the 2 donation medium links. So if you want to help towards the further growth of the channel, of the podcast, and everything in between, then you can do that. And there's also a link for Green Man Gaming. So if you want to buy any digital games, check them out. And anything you buy, I will receive a small commission from the company. Like I've said before, we don't make money from anywhere else at present. So anything you can do to help is always greatly appreciated, but you're not obligated to do so at the same time. If you're listening on any MP3/podcast platform, if there are ways for you to leave us feedback on there, please do so, because we really, really appreciate it. And it always helps us to get reviews and comments and things like that. And if you're unable to, then in the information box about the podcast you're listening to, there should be a link to the YouTube channel. Come on over and pop something in the comments yourself. You'd be more than welcome. Love to hear from you. That's going to do us, Mum.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you once again for joining me.
That's a pleasure as always.
And we will reconvene here next week.
Yes, indeed.
No more birthdays or anything like that, just normal shows.
Not for a while.
Not for a little while,
yeah.
Thank you very much. And all that's left to say is you take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye, 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 bye.